Welcome back. Let's continue from where we left off at the end of Chapter 2. Make sure the fish object is selected, then right-click in the 3D view to go back into Point Edit mode. To make changes to our model, we need to be able to select the elements that it is made up of and to manipulate them. Workspace has a very strong set of tools for performing these operations. You probably noticed that when we entered Point Edit mode, a lot of the icons in the Edit toolbar went from gray to colored. That's because those tools are Point Edit tools and are only available when in Point Edit mode. In fact, selecting any of the selection tools, with the exception of the Object Select tool, will cause Workspace to enter Point Edit mode for the currently selected object. This is something important to remember because using the Point Edit selection tools will convert your object into a static editable mesh. The Point Edit selection tools are Pick and Move Selected, Pick and Paint Selected, Lasso Select, Rectangle Select, and Soft Select. Of these, the two that I use most are Pick and Paint Selected and Rectangle Select. For now, choose Rectangle Select. Once you have a select tool picked, the next step is to choose the type of element that you want to select. In Workspace, a mesh is made up of 3 element types. These are vertices, edges, and faces. Workspace 7 has also added 2 new extended element types, edge loops and face loops. Let's choose vertices. You'll notice that since we are in a perspective view, that it's difficult to accurately line up our model with the template, since the apparent position relative to the template image changes depending on the angle that we look at the model from. Later we will deal with that by using an orthographic or 2D view. For now, we'll just eyeball things since the model's close enough to the plane that we should be able to get the positions good enough. So rotate your view to be as front-facing as you can get it. Additionally, frame up the view and zoom in with the mouse wheel if needed. We'll also need to be able to select all the way through the model to get vertices on both sides of it. So hold on the third icon flyout and drag over to Select from All Elements, which will allow us to select from both the front and the back-facing sides of the model. With the Rectangular Select tool and Select Vertices selected, click-drag to select the row of vertices on the far left side of the cylinder. Don't worry if you select too many or don't get all the ones that you wanted. Holding Control will allow you to drag-select additional vertices to add to the selection, while holding Shift down will allow you to drag-select the vertices that you want to remove from the selection. Once you have the vertices that you wanted selected, click-drag on the triangle part of the widget to move them up and to the left so that they better line up with the image. Now right-click-drag on one of the gray widget cubes to uniform scale the vertices down until they match the tail width in the image. Drag-select the next row of vertices and move and scale them as well. Remember to right-click-drag when scaling so that you get a uniform scaling and won't lose the circular profile of the fish body. Repeat this for each row, roughly lining them up with the drawing. Keep in mind to overlap the fins a little bit to allow for them to be modeled from the body later. Also leave a little bit of space on the bottom when adjusting the last 4 loops, because we are going to manually adjust the bottom down a bit in the next step. Drag select the bottom 3 rows of vertices from the 4 right-hand side loops. Then use the red cylinder part of the Point Edit widget to drag these down a bit in the Z-axis. Remember that this is organic modeling, so don't worry about being perfect. We just want to rough out the shape. With that done, drag select in an empty space to remove the selection. Now let's switch to an orthographic view and see how well we did. Orthographic views are the 2-dimensional views found here on the main Workspace toolbar. You'll find the usual left and right, front and back, and top and bottom, perspective and camera views, but new with 7.51 is this cool new feature called Nearest Orthographic. Go ahead and select it. You can see that the orthographic view nearest to the camera angle was selected for us automatically. Let's pan over and zoom in to better frame up the body of the fish. You'll notice that the view widget works slightly differently when in orthographic mode. Left-click drag on the gray triangle now pans the view, while right-click drag trucks the camera in and out. The model looks pretty good for just eyeballing it, but there's still some tweaking left to do. Let's go ahead and select and move vertices again to refine the shape. The advantage of the orthographic view over the perspective view is that it allows us to more exactly line up the elements of our model with the template image. You'll want to get comfortable with the process of selecting and moving vertices around because we will be doing a lot of that throughout this course. In fact, much of organic modeling is made up of lots of little tweaks to the mesh to create the shapes we're envisioning in our head. An important concept to be considered when creating the shapes for your model is that it's more important to think in terms of volumes and the space in 3D that they occupy instead of lining everything up perfectly with your drawing. For example, as I'm roughing out the shape for the body, it becomes clear that I don't really want the top fin to come down as far as it does in the image, since that would make our fish more squash looking and less mean. 2D drawing rarely translates into a perfect 3D model, so developing your ability to visualize volumes and express them as 3D geometry will help a lot with organic modeling. That should do it. I think we are pretty much done with the vertical tweaking for now. Let's go back into perspective view and see how the widths for the fish's body came out. Here we can see that we're in great shape except for the one edge loop that needs to be wider. Let's select those vertices and left-click drag on the Y scale part of the widget to scale them out in the Y direction. You may have to do more tweaking on your model to get the correct shape, so feel free to take time now and do any additional tweaking needed. Let's pause here. We'll go on to working on the tail in the next section.